Hello all, happy holiday weekend to y'all out there. Dr. Fox back here with you. Discontinuation of Molten Corgi? Hot fixes for Death Knights? And some Q&A. Backpack transmogs? I know some of that might be slightly old. Anyway, let's jump on into the shot way. Alright, Dr. Fox back here with you. Cat, aka Mora, she's off to the side over here playing around. So if you hear some noise during this recording, she's over here being a silly girl this morning. We just got her all cleaned up, and she's all ecstatic. She's running around with her head cut off, so you might hear some things in the background. Why don't we jump right on into this? Hot fixes on the PTR for the Death Knights. And, of course, it won't really show you this right now. This is not the PTR. This is the live one. I'm just jumping in here to kind of give you some sort of relatable, because for those that know me know that I don't really have a nice system to be able to put in. Yeah, see, there goes the little ball with the bell sound in the background there. Sorry, it's not about me being distracted, just pointing that out. If you can hear that softly in the back corner, I don't know if the microphone can pick that up or not, but anyway, for those that do know me know that right now I'll be able to afford to make some really, really good videos right now in this aspect. So I have to kind of work with what I got. And with that said, anyway, I'll put the link in for Hazelnutty. She showed a link for that, and it shows it basically these little glowing, flowing spots come off of the eyes here in the PTR. I can't, like I said, I can't really show you much of that, but that it seems to be happening. It's kind of cool and kind of a neat look there going on as well. This is what's currently live right now, but this is on the PTR. So we may be seeing that for those that, whether we want to say, to quote Hazelnutty, whether they go, Death Knights will rejoice, or maybe that's not something that Death Knights do. I love that. That was a great line, Hazel. All right, with that said, let's move on. It seems that mine is still showing up, so I don't know if that's something that's going away or a report that maybe I missed. But thank you for that great question. We've got by the way, first off, thank you all again for your continuation of watching my pet pedal videos. I know some could always use tweaking, and there's always changes and things like that, but I want to send out a special thank you for pointing out that, so I guess the Molten Corgi is going away. Now, I know the 15th anniversary, when those anniversary events go away, they won't be available again until the next anniversary, and or if you can even get it after next year's anniversary option, if we're going to be getting our little token for 16% up here instead of 15, because they tend to add whatever year anniversary we're on. We tend to get that with the experience and rep token right up here in the upper right hand corner. So if we're going to see that come back, or actually if this poor little guy is going to eventually disappear. And what the question is Dr. Fox, are there any good alternatives? I am going to be responding to your question as well on the site. I try to get to as many questions as I can, and my apologies for any that I miss or I don't see for weeks, and I am so sorry. I'm trying to do the best I can. It's been a little crazy around here, especially during the holidays, makes it more difficult, and that's not an excuse. It's just it's a struggle that happens over here in this circumstance. But with that said, they're looking for some alternatives, and you know, I checked Wowhead. They're very good exclusive. I'll put a link to the Molten Corgi itself. There is some mention of it being discontinued, so that may happen, and if there was a report or a hot fix that I may have missed, then my apologies for that. But thank you for bringing that to my attention, because I thought I heard something the other week about that. So for the alternatives, there was at least I was going to mention, let me see if I can type in here the Molten Corgi. Yeah. We've got like the Harbinger of Flame. I know we can't really hold up very well as that, but when you got a strong one like Bark or Super Bark, definitely Grumpy. If you're looking for the Bark and Super Bark combo, I would definitely recommend Grumpy right here. This little guy, and he's very easy to get if you're able to get a character into BFA. You just have to save him from one of the fire buildings in Valsharar. And those that know my channel tend to know I botched some of these, even when I go back and listen to the enunciation. But if not, you can find them fairly inexpensive in the auction house as well. They just kind of get you going. Or if you're in Draenor and you can save up for the Terrible Turnip, those are definitely a few good alternatives, especially if you're trying to capture. I almost said Pokemon. I'm playing Sword a little bit on the side. And we'll get into that Q&A question that's coming up about that here in short moments. But if you're looking for an alternative for the Corgi pup for being able to capture some, then I would highly recommend the Terrible Turnip. And Mora's playing with her ball over there. The Terrible Turnip and Grumpy for being able to capture these pets with the combo of Bark and Howl and Super Bark is one of the best combos that I would highly recommend for when you're trying to capture these battle pets. If you're looking for more of a flame alternative, that's when I would suggest something like the Harbinger of Flame or something along those lines right here. He's a little harder to get. He can drop in Molten Core. The price has gone up a bit on him. There's a few other options like the Hate Spark the Tiny and like Searing Scorchling here. But if you're looking for the flame types, these are some of the options that I would highly recommend. So hope that helps a little bit. We won't spend too much time on that. Big news on Classic. For those that were wondering, the Battlegrounds have gone live. Huge Battlegrounds. So I'm just not jumping over to Classic at the moment. I was just showing. And on my report of things here really quick, before we get into the transmog discussion, you'll see that I have officially and excitedly to announce that I have finished all of my leveling. I may have briefly mentioned that last week. I have been plugging away over on all but that one. But that's being saved for when I can, I hope, eventually, some point soon TM, I hope, if all goes to plan, to be able to try to level one of my classic characters so that I can use that boost on that one last character. And what I've been doing with my main, you might notice that she's in Tall Berard Peninsula. I don't know. I know I'm botching it. I just call it TB for short so that I don't have people trying to correct me or tell me that it has to be pronounced this way. And it's all good. We can all pronounce it how we want to pronounce it. It's all good. Thank you, though. And I've been in there grinding away at some of the achievements and trying to work towards a couple of the mounts. I went back to do a little bit of that. I've been plugging away at that for a bit before. Wintervale this week, of course, wrapping up. If you're seeing this after Tuesday, the 17th, sorry that you may have missed out on it, but we have time walking up until technically tomorrow if you see this as it's posted day coming out on this weekend of December 14th and 15th. So I hope that, but starting tomorrow, Wintervale's back. And remember, for all those that are looking for a discounted way to get your mounts and your pets, not the newest ones and not Dottie this year, of course. It always tends to be the following year. I did do that. I always show my support for No Trans Left Behind, the nonprofit that I started many years ago. And we run that on the Nomergard race day as well to show our appreciation. All proceeds go to that whenever I do these types of things as well. I don't make a penny. And then the Make-A-Wish, of course, for Dottie as well. And I do have a Dottie. But with that said, Wintervale, the events are coming up for Wintervale, and if you're looking for your mounts at half price, most of them, not the most current mounts, generally the ones that come out within the past year or so don't tend to be on sale until the following year generally, or if they had only just come out a few months prior. We haven't had a ton of those come out, so. And then we shift gears, and now we know for some of you folks, this is kind of old news, and you may have already heard about this back in September, but backpack transmogs. Kalani mentions this in one of his most recent videos as well. I'll put that link in there as well. There'll be a few links that we'll throw in there as well. And then as we integrate into the Q&A, that was one of the Q&As I got about the Molten Corgi lately. And grats on another Pet Battle Individualer about using Iki. That is a great one, and congratulations on that. I wanted to share that one really quick. And before World of Warcraft, Dr. Fox, they're asking, what did you play? And, well, that I'm going to show my age. Not in particularly, because some could say, well, I found an old emulator, and I could have played it that way, too. But no, I played on these original consoles. I'm going to show my age a bit here. And, I started with a square dot. There was no classes. There was no particular race or faction or anything. It was a square dot. And I played Adventure, and I played the crap out of that game on Atari 2600. And when I was offline and an integrated system, if you want to check this out, go ahead and look it up if you don't know what I'm talking about. But another one that I loved playing with my brother in our early days was these little square person characters on the Odyssey 2, the Quest for the Rings, and you actually had this little platelet you could put down on the Odyssey 2, and it would let you do little things, and we'd have little bloops and blips, and going to Ragnaros, I used to always tell my brother that always used to remind me of that fire area that we used to try to have to do in Quest for the Rings, and it just, man, that brings back so many memories. Holy crud, just thinking about that. But if you're not sure, take a look. Look that one up. I bet there's a video out there of some footage for Quest for the Rings on the Odyssey 2. And then after that, of course, I know my brother's played a lot of D&D, and he enjoyed those Dragonlance. Actually, that's where our guild name, the Companions, comes from. It's a Humridge back to that. He was a big Dragonlance fan as well from that, and I went with sort of the elf look of one of the elves in that, and some of our RP lore back in the day was like I was sort of a sister and he was sort of a brother to, we sort of grew up together, and he was sort of brother to that dwarf in there, and I was a sister to the other elf that was in there, and we were brother and sister, and we were raised together, and it was just kind of really neat the way we played that all out. Anyway, then I moved on to something exciting. The NES introduced me to Final Fantasy 1, mind you, on the old NES. And then it was Dragon Warrior, and I was totally hooked on Dragon Warrior. I know someone goes, it's Dragon Quest, Dr. Fox. Now, in your region, that's fine. Or some over here will call it that. That's fine. I'm still going to call it what I remember it as in Dragon Warrior. There was even an anime, and I love that anime. It was great. The voice actor who did the main character, I loved it. I loved his work, and it was great. And some of you might recognize him. I won't get into too much of that. But anyway, I love that little... It was on at like 6 o'clock in the morning. I had a tiny, microscopic little... Our father gave us like this little tiny black and white television. And I used to try to catch that on Saturday mornings when it would come on. And it was so hard. I did end up finding it years later on someone that had burned it onto some DVDs, CD, data CDs for us. And then eventually online and whatnot. But... and then I've continued the Final Fantasies, Chrono Trigger, Secret of Evermore, Secret of Mana, on the SNES, Earthbound, Pokemon on the Game Boys. As we moved into online, I did not do EverQuest. I did Final Fantasy 11, but I couldn't afford to have the fee to keep going, so I kind of had to just I ran a store many millennia ago, let me put it that way, and we used to have kids come in and like rent time. That was the only way we were able to actually keep that account going. And I had this huge television screen, and we used to have a couple of regular kids that would come. There was one regular young boy that used to come in on a regular basis, and he'd play, and he'd pay his little time, and that was the only way that helped offset financially, a way that we were able to keep that one. And then I was able to have my own account in the back on an older, much older computer. I used to build some computers, and we had a little computer lab inside or off to the side of the video store, and we had a nice gentleman and his family. He used to come over and help me build. We started to build like a little network system of some used computers, and oh my gosh, it was quite a little setup back in the day. I'll tell you, it was a rough. That part was fun, but there was other rough things going on with my transition early on, and that's why I can really relate to, on a quick side note, for Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the non-conformity, quote unquote, is why I can really relate to that character. And I felt like a misfit myself, so I'm sure many of us others could on those aspects. But those anyway, kind of wrap back around, that was some of the ways. And then my brother introduced me to World of Warcraft. I was immediately hooked to a Night Elf from trying his classic. I eventually came into another account. I don't know if that other account, but the more current one has been showing that I've been part of this since Wrath of the Lynch King. I could have sworn I came in at BC. I remember playing a little classic on his account, and he just basically looked at what the gold was. I didn't have a ton of it. I didn't get to play it very often anyway, and it would be difficult. But that's sort of the integration, and then the rest is history after that. And I've just been still playing ever since. I'll try a few games here, a few games there. I still do some different Pokemon on the side, a few random little games as well, but for the most part, I pretty much stick to that. Dr. Fox, here's our next question. Any new unlockable races beyond the Valpyr, aka Ratchet and Clank, or Hatchet and Rank, or something like that, or it's some sort of variation? I saw something similar to this on a Reddit recently. It just kind of made me chuckle a little bit. Yes, I'm going to be playing those two when they come. Yes, honey. And Mama's wrapping this up, sweetie. And with that said, I mean, there possibly maybe the Covenant from the Shadowlands. We might get something maybe mid expansion, maybe. But it seems like they're sort of cutting back on that a bit. Speaking of allied race, you can see there. I've got one right there, one of the Kaltorn that I did as a druid. But I think we'll have to see. We'll have to kind of see how that plays out. Let me kind of leave it at that as well. And due to the gold farming, are you trying to prep for another one now that you got the Brontosaur mount and you've been able to farm most of the items, most of the mount farmed items, like the pets? And let me just tell you something. The gold, that inflation that's coming, I'm terrified to think if we went from 1 to 2 million in Legion for a Black Widow spider. Yes, I have that. Ugh. But then to jump to like another mount for 500,000, a Brontosaur auction mount for 5 million. Jeez, and then those 3 frogs at 333,333 apiece, and your pets, and there's like 1.5 million pet. They had that little platosaur thing, and oh my goodness, I've been trying, and I know sometimes near the tail end you can have a good little grind out. All I've been focused on lately is trying to take a break and go to Talbador, as I briefly mentioned earlier in this video. And I have been every once in a while when I see a few pet charms coming up. Oh, something really big I wanted to really announce really quick too as well, that I got all my pets. I got them all upgraded to rare. Now all I have to do is continue to level them. And I'm finally at the point of leveling, and at this point I only have to grind those polished pet charms, the newer ones, the yellow ones, not the older icon ones. I have all the older items for the older icons, the older type pet charms, but the newer ones, I still got to grind some of those because there's 2 other toys in BFA that I'm trying to reach. And I think I have all the pets finally. I finally got Pepe recently. That was a rough one to get. Some would say otherwise, but for me, that was a rough circumstance as well. And speaking of that, a new type of new mount. I like Hazelnutty's idea about maybe, not that this is going to bring a lot of people to the capital, but wouldn't it be kind of neat if you're like, oh, I like that new transmog. I need a different haircut. Like a haircut vendor. But I'll tell you what, it better not be $7.5 million for just a freaking haircut barber. Jeez, crow. Or like maybe allow you to, like, a companion character to show up that will be like, look, I'm here. I've got my scissors. I will give you a quick barber. Or like a little character shows up in a little barber chair you can click into, or something, like a little companion or a toy thing, or like a little portable hut pops up or something, and you throw it like in Dragon Ball, and it pops up in a little hut, and you walk into it, and it's a barber in the seat, and you can sit in it. No, I don't know. It's fine. It probably just, maybe that's takes too much time, but you just pop a mount, and you can click on the vendor, and it'll bring up the box, and you can change your hairstyle. Anyway, I'm getting a little complex there, but all right, we're gonna kind of leave it at that. I know this video is kind of dragging on, so there's a lot of information to cover this week. I hope you all have a great week. I hope you all have a good holiday. We're going to be leading up to that, and so once again, this is Dr. Fox. Remember to take a couple of good deep breaths this week as we continue to climb closer through the holidays, and I hope you able to call me in the morning. And once again, Dr. Fox, and we will see you later.